Hi, everybody. This time I want to talk to you about how to handle severe stress. And, we live a very stressful life. So I want to define it a little bit before I go into it. And I think that all Americans have stressful lives and all Americans have time of severe stress. And so I hope this will be helpful for everyone. But my audience for this channel is people with chronic illness. So I want to go into what specifically severe stress means when you have a chronic illness. So you end up with three strikes against you, kind of. The first thing that can really cause severe stress is, social isolation, which let's just say no one to talk to, simpler definition. And a lot of times with people with chronic illness, even though they really want to talk, because we feel stress as pressure, right? Pressure, pressure, pressure. And you get desperate to relieve that. And one of the ways to relieve it is to be able to just talk with somebody who can listen and understand and give you some emotional support. But a lot of times when people with chronic illness bring up those kinds of things, it can make other people very uncomfortable. And, there's always a reason for that. I don't want to judge or diss anybody, but I think a lot of people are uncomfortable because they're afraid that they may have to listen to endless tales of your aches and pains. Let's just be honest. And they also don't feel comfortable with it. They don't have any experience with it. They don't know exactly what to do. So sometimes they will say things to you like, oh, you just need to be positive. Or, they say it in a nicer tone. You just need to be positive. Or, it could be so much worse. Or my unfavorite, I'm sorry to hear that. Because all of those things, when you're on the receiving end, immediately stop any further conversation. Because what you hear is, I don't want to talk about this. And I'll explain the I'm sorry. Because for me, I'm like, okay, you're sorry because I told you. So I hear that as I don't want to talk. And that may be my issue. But, I'm like other people with chronic illness. So sometimes we get this self-enforced isolation and it can get very difficult. So that's strike one. Strike two is that you may develop a worsening condition or some kind of illness which really restricts your movements even more than they are, to the point where you can't go outside, you can't walk very far. And this gives your body a lot of stress because your body's designed to move. And when you are artificially restricted like that, and particularly if you've been used to being more active, that becomes very frustrating and very stressful. So that's strike two for a lot of people. Strike three is that after a period of stress, which doesn't have to be that long, you can really start to lose your ability to think clearly and to make good decisions and to remember things. And so then that amps up the stress even more. And that's strike three. And everything I'm going to talk to you about doing about this is something that's supported by research, except for this first option. It's very true that research supports the idea that isolation causes stress and can cause severe stress and can even cause illness, because we are not designed to be alone. And I understand too that not all people have this problem. So I don't want to make it sound like this is something that happens to everyone, because it's not. And the solution that I came up with, more or less out of desperation, was I started talking to my phone. I would just put the phone on video and talk to it. And while it wasn't like talking to a person, but it certainly helped to be free, to just go into every detail that I wanted and every single thing that was bothering me and all of that, and just get rid of it. So before I did this video, I decided to review those and just make sure I felt comfortable recommending them. And I have to say, the first time through, it was a little bit depressing because maybe all conversations are like that. If you go back in time, time changes things. But when I saw how bad I looked and how sad I looked and how desperate I looked and how many things I had on me, it was kind of depressing, and it started to take me toward like negative thinking. So I went off and distracted myself with something and then thought about it later. And when I thought about it later, I felt good about myself, because I'm like, you did that, you got through it. And I also noticed that all these problems, I had all these intractable problems. Just, I won't go into the details, because I know most people with chronic illness know what I'm talking about. It's like, you can't find the right specialist, you can't get the right medication, you have to cancel things because you're too sick to go. It's just a cycle where you don't make any forward progress. But I realized that a year later, I have solved all of those problems that I was fighting so hard to solve. So I just want to put that in, is that you don't ever have to go back and look at these if you don't want to. You can just send them into cyberspace. So I just wanted to put a little warning in there in case, they might, I don't want them to cause any distress. The second thing that I think is really helpful for severe stress is something that's kind of a taboo in America, and that's crying. You notice when people are on TV and they start to break up a little bit, what do they say? They say, "I'm sorry," because they know they're violating the social norms that, you're a grown up and you don't cry, and you don't cry in public. But the thing about it is that when you cry, you're flushing those stress hormones out of your body. So it's really important to cry when you're in a bad situation. You can go off in your closet and close the door. You can go off in the bathroom and turn on the shower and the faucet. You can make sure that no one else hears you cry. But it's really important when you're feeling sad and you want to cry to go ahead and do that, because you're going to help yourself. And it's hard. It was hard for me to do that. And it was just really uncomfortable, but then I felt so much better afterwards. And that's because I flushed out all that adrenaline and cortisol. And again, that's there in the research. So that's my second thing for severe stress, is cry. And the third thing is music. And the research says that you should play your favorite music. And I found for me that there's certain music that I only listen to when I'm stressed. Like, there's a great scene from a Tom Cruise movie, and he's blaring down the road and he's singing "Free Falling" by Tom Petty. And you can just see the release that it's giving him. And that is a song that I do listen to when I'm stressed, because it has that feeling of relief in it. Something about how it's arranged in the lyrics that makes you almost feel like you're floating. And I also listen to a lot of classical music, because it has such a big sound that it's not that I like it, it's just that it relieves something inside me. And opera singing is the same way. Opera singers are standing up on that stage with no microphone, and they have so much power in their voice that it almost feels like I'm getting some power from them. So, take a chance and listen to something you might not ordinarily listen to, but do listen to your favorite music, because it will really help you. And, some people might be thinking, well, you should be talking about, telling people not to overeat, and telling people to meditate, and telling people to exercise. And that is all completely true. But my experience with severe stress is that that is not the time to try to learn or institute new things. You need things that are immediate, that are free, that you don't have to go anywhere to access. And that's why I've chosen these particular things rather than some of the other things, which are also helpful for other levels of stress, which I'm going to cover in my little series here on stress. So I hope this is helpful. If there's anyone out there who's going through severe stress, just know that there are people who care and who understand. And even though I can't be there to talk to you, I am still here for you, and I care about each and every person that goes through these really difficult and challenging periods. And I want you to come through and have a victory and be able to feel good about yourself and what you accomplished in spite of everything you were up against. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.